Good day or good evening, however that applies to you. Today we're going to take a trip to the Smithsonian Institute's Natural History Museum in Washington, D.C. We'll take a tour through the Hall of Human Origins and visit some ancient precursors to modern humans that have been discovered in recent years, some of whom you may recognize. To get to the hall, we pass through a sort of time tunnel that transports us back a few million years. A graph on the wall indicates the primary stages of development humans went through as they progressed first in Africa and then in the Middle East, Asia, Europe, and beyond. The Smithsonian starts the line of humanity beginning at 6 million years ago with the hallmark that separates humans from all other mammals. We are bipedal. We walk on two legs. No other mammal does that. Other primates can manage to stand upright for a short duration, but they prefer walking and especially running on all fours. Some paleontologists draw the line between man and ape, regarding the use of stone tools as a line of demarcation, and prefer to regard mankind as beginning with our genus Homo, and for them, man departed from the apes around 2.5 million years ago, beginning with Homo habilis. Control of fire was the next leap forward in technology, and that began possibly as early as 1.5 million years ago. The earliest hearths are at least 790,000 years old. This was a huge benefit, giving them the ability to cook their meat, stave off wild animals, and have warmth at night. Our brains began to get bigger at around 500,000 years ago. By 250,000 years ago, we began to communicate with symbols. The length of time spent in childhood increased, beginning around 160,000 years ago, and by 10,500 years ago, we began to grow crops in small communities and raise domesticated animals. This advance allowed for cities where culture could develop and for the specialization of labor, which would bring us to the first cities that began in Turkey and Syria, where cereal grains could be cultivated, and finally to Mesopotamia, where our biblical and historical journey truly begins. If we look on the floor near the entrance to the hall, we can see a cast of human footprints dated to 3.6 million years ago, discovered by paleoanthropologist Mary Leakey in 1976 in Tanzania. These are the footprints of a small family of Australopithecines who are making their journey in somewhat precarious circumstances. Ash from a nearby volcanic eruption, mixed with rain, was falling on our trio of travelers as they slogged their way through the mix of mud and volcanic ash that covered the soggy ground. Two adults, perhaps a male and female, are making their way, one stepping in the footprints of the leader with a child beside. You can see two adult footprints together, one walking in the footprints of the other. What is notable is the wide spacing between the big toe and the little toes that can be seen here. Although they were obviously bipedal, their feet were still adapted to life in the trees where they could sleep at night in relative safety from leopards and other wild animals that patrolled the grasslands in search of tasty humans to add to their diet. The child walking beside shows the same footprint pattern as the adults, a wide space between the big toe and the little toes. Well, this offers definitive proof of a bipedal species that existed unlike modern humans today. This is a model of the famous Lucy as she might have looked in the prime of her life, 3.3 million years ago, standing about 3.5 feet tall, although males of her species stood about 5 feet tall. Here are a couple of exhibits to show the difference between a Homo sapiens foot and one belonging to an Australopithecine. And this shows the difference between the foot of a modern human and the one belonging to a chimpanzee. This graph depicts the amount of oxygen isotopes in deep-sea forams taken from core examples extracted from the ocean floor. The length of the core sample equates to time of deposition, and the graph shows a pattern of 10 million years of climate variation with warm and cold cycles depicted. We can see the rate of climate change was relatively slow for millions of years. During this time, the amount of change occurring in humans and their precursors was slight. By contrast, in the last 2 million years, changes in climate were more frequent, with large swings between hot and cold occurring, and human adaptation followed suit, exhibited by larger changes in morphology and behavior. Now, it's not exactly that the climate changed and we responded in kind. It has more to do with the changes in human behavior patterns that were heavily influenced by climate change, because it was only within this time frame that we began chasing animals for food. During the ice ages, shown here, animal herds remained in the southern regions. But during the interglacial periods, animal herds would migrate north, following the advancing grasslands, with their human predators in tow, picking off the slower and weaker animals trailing the migrating herds. Human remains have been found as far north as Siberia in their constant search for food. This exhibit displays 2.5 million years of human skull casts, beginning with an Australopithecus africanus. Its brain case is about the size of a grapefruit, and the slope of the face angles sharply forward, similar to gorillas. The Paranthropus boisei model shows the sagittal crest at the top of the skull, needed to attach large masseter muscles. On this Homo erectus cast, you can see the pronounced brow ridge, and it is believed that a massive brow ridge helped to dissipate the pressures from grinding their large molars to crush seeds and nuts and grass into something they could digest. A large passageway in the skull formation accommodates the large muscles that are attached to a substantial lower jaw. As we move to a modern human, the skull is expanded to accommodate a larger brain. The face is now aligned vertically from a more modest brow ridge, and the passageway for the muscles used for chewing are smaller now, reduced from adapting to tens of thousands of years of eating softer fruits and vegetables and meat. If we had turned to the left when we came through the time tunnel, we would have come to our quite extended family tree. You may recognize Uncle Fritz on one of the lower limbs. Not your uncle, of course, but mine. If we start at the base of the tree, or bush, as paleoanthropologist Richard Leakey would call it, we encounter early forerunners we have come to know as Ardipithecus, who lived in East Africa. Ardipithecus cadaba is the oldest, dated to as early as 5.8 million years ago. Ardipithecus ramidus was first reported in 1994. In 2009, scientists announced a partial skeleton affectionately known as Ardi. The foot bones in this particular skeleton indicate a divergent large toe combined with a rigid foot. It's not clear what that means concerning bipedal behavior. The pelvis is said to show adaptations that combine tree climbing and bipedal activity. The discoverers argue that the Ardi skeleton reflects a human African ape common ancestor, although the Smithsonian puts Ardi in the human category from his entry after 6 million years ago. Ardi's fossils were found amidst faunal remains, indicating he lived in a wooded environment. The Paranthropus group lived between about 2.3 million years and 1.2 million years ago, whereupon they reached an evolutionary dead end. Being strictly vegetarian with large guts and short legs, they never left Africa. By contrast, the Australopithecines living during the same time frame and in the same area of East Africa added meat to their diet, and through adaptation streamlined their body plan with longer legs suitable for chasing animals. It was from this group, it is believed, that Homo habilis descended, the first in the genus Homo. We have no way of knowing how many branches may have set off to find their way in the world without success. Nevertheless, researchers commonly trace our own lineage from habilis to erectus to heidelbergensis, and then to our own species, Homo sapiens, beginning 200,000 years ago. What many find interesting is that if you journeyed back in time 150,000 years ago, there were 4 different species of humans, all living on the earth, all at the same time. Some believe erectus may have lived until nearly 70,000 years ago. The Neanderthals lived until 30 to 35,000 years ago, and the 3-foot-tall hobbits living on the island of Flores survived until about 17,000 years ago. And of course, today, we're the only remaining human species.